Hey guys, and welcome to our last flipped video lesson here of Unit 2. And actually, this will be our last flipped video lesson of a fully flipped classroom. Now, wait, before you start crying and tearing up, we will probably still be doing some flipped lessons in Unit 3 and Unit 4. So take a deep breath, pull back those tears, and let's finish strong with our inequalities. So today we're going to be talking about writing our inequalities verbally and algebraically, talking about the language of inequalities. We've done this in Unit 1 with expressions and already in Unit 2 with equations, so now it's inequalities' turn. So to be good at translating and interpreting our inequality language, we've got to remember all of the phrases that we had back in Unit 1. Okay, so take a look at this list. In your notes, you have some space there. I want you to look at and write down any phrases that were unfamiliar to you or you know in the past have given you trouble. So go ahead, pause the video and write those down now. Okay, well, now we've got those down, really look back on those and make them stick in your head so that going forward on this next test, you're not getting the same problems wrong that you got previously in Unit 1 and already in Unit 2. So now that we've refreshed our memory, we can move on to a first part of our target here, which is translating, taking numbers, changing them into, words, and vice versa. We're going to be going both ways, from expressions to sentences and sentences to expressions. But before we can do that, we do have to learn a couple of new phrases to make sure that we can correctly communicate with inequalities. Now, these first four phrases are kind of the basic four phrases that we're probably already familiar with. Is greater than, is less than, is greater than or equal to, is less than or equal to. And we should be pretty familiar with those symbols by now. But here are a few more that we might not be as familiar with. Is at most, is at least, is between, is more than, right? At most and at least are kind of deceiving because at most sounds like greater than. It's more, greater, but it's actually less than or equal to. Least sounds like less, but it's actually greater than or equal to. If you use those in a sentence, think about what you're saying. You're actually communicating the greater than with at most you're expressing less than or equal to. With more you're actually expressing greater than or equal to. Now if we say we're in between two numbers, what we're saying is whatever we have said is in between is greater than the smaller number but less than the bigger number. So it's actually setting up a compound inequality there with the word with between or in between. And then is more than, right? That's the same thing as kind of is greater than, just using different language there. This list is not exhaustive. This does not cover every possible language that you could see, but it does cover a good number of the common ones that we'll see pretty regularly and in these notes here. So we've got all of our phrases now written down in our notes, so let's go forward and let's start translating. So you have a sentence here. What we're going to want you to do is take that sentence, like you've done before, translate it into an expression with numbers, variables, and symbols. Let's look at the first one together. 7 times the sum of a number and 9 is greater than, there's our inequality, negative 43. So we can see we have 7 times, and then because it's a sum, we put the addition in parentheses, x plus 9, and then is greater than, we have our greater than symbol, and negative 43. Okay, so go ahead on the next two, try these on your own, pause the video, and then we'll check our answers. Ready, pause. Welcome back. Let's see how we did here. In number 2, one important thing to notice is we have the words more than, but we don't have the word is more than. If it's just more than and not is more than, we're actually talking about the operation addition, not an inequality sign. So make sure we're aware of that. And because it's more than, we have to flip the order. So 8x plus 3 there. In the last one, we can see we're using the word between, which means we're creating a compound inequality there. So we're taking the 13 over x all to the third power is between, so bigger than negative 7, greater than negative 7, but less than 19. Let's go the other way now. Now you have the expressions, and we need you to write the sentences. So go ahead, pause the video, and write a sentence to represent each expression here. Ready, pause. Let's see how we did. Now remember, these sentences that I have are not the only correct answers. It's very possible that you could have another sentence different than mine and still have the correct answer. If you're unsure whether you're okay or not with your sentence, please make sure you ask in class, and we'll talk about it and verify whether you're correct or not. So we've worked on the translating now, and now we're going to work on the interpreting. We're going to take a word problem, and the word problem is not going to describe for us blow by blow what we need to be writing down for an expression for our inequalities here. We're going to have to read, We're going to have to understand what it's being asked of us. We're going to have to figure out what the variable is. We're going to have to do a number of different things that are a little deeper, a little higher level of understanding than just translating. So let's do a couple together here. He-Man is 49 years old, and in 5 years, She-Ra will be at most half of He-Man's age. What are the possible ages She-Ra could be? Well, the first thing we need to know is what is our variable? What is our unknown amount here? Well, that is She-Ra's possible ages, right? That's X. How old could she be? We don't know. That's our variable. So now we're told that He-Man is 49 years old, and that in 5 years, She-Ra will be at most half of He-Man's age. Well, in 5 years, meaning we're going to add 5 years to She-Ra's age, so X plus 5 will be at most, remember from a previous slide that tells us less than or equal to half of He-Man's age, 49 divided by 2. So we get the inequality, X plus 5 is less than or equal to 49 over 2, half of 49. Another way you could write this, which would also be correct, is instead of dividing 49 by 2, you could multiply the X plus 5 by 2. Either of these would be an acceptable inequality for this problem here. So the next one here is Amanda saw a sign which said free iPod if you collect at least 500 pieces of used gum. If the number of used pieces of gum Amanda has collected is 7x minus 3, write an inequality and solve to find the smallest value x could be, and Amanda still get the iPod. So we don't really have a true variable here. They give us 7x minus 3, an expression is the number of pieces of gum. And that has to be at least 500, meaning that 7x plus 3, the number of pieces of gum, has to be greater than or equal to 500. And that's our inequality here that we would use to solve and find the value for x. Well, we've done 2 together. Here are 2 to try on your own, about mini golf and about waitressing. So go ahead, pause the video, and do your best to write an inequality which would represent this word problem and allow you to solve for your variable. Ready? Pause. Okay, let's see how we did here. So in the first one is very similar to number 2. Excuse me, guys. That 3x plus 6 is given to us an expression, and that's her score. Well, she needs to have a score of at most 42, which means we know it's less than or equal to, so 3x plus 6 is less than or equal to 42. Number 4 is a little trickier. Betty works gets $7 per hour, and she gets $55 in tips. If x is the number of hours she works, that means 7 times x, the dollars times the number of hours, plus the $55 in tips is going to be how much money she makes. And we want that to be, at least, so greater than or equal to $104. So 7x plus 55 is greater than or equal to 104. So there you have it, and we have reached the end. Thank you guys so much for working hard at these videos through the first 2 units, and hopefully we can finish this unit strong with a great grade on the test. We'll see you in class.